Explained by the Billy Meier Contacts. Mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more. Compiled by David Chance, revised October 18, 2023.
Antichrist, the 666, the beast Antichrist number of the beast. Contact Report 031.
It is said on the earth, especially among the Christians, that Emmanuel, whom they call Jesus Christ, is, so to speak, the actual master of the world and the universe. He is supposed to be God incarnate, where this God is regarded as the creation. What do you say about this?
We know about these human delusions on your world. Alone, the idea of a Christ being and a Christ consciousness corresponds to a very evil and degenerate delusion of the earth humans, and a very ill-natured presumption. Because if these things would have happened or would still happen in the future, which is absolutely impossible, because it truly is only a fantasy of delusional earth humans, then with absolute probability, the race which would be given the task of disseminating a religion would not be the earth humans. As since many millennia on many worlds in the universe, the earth human stands in the entire universe as a purely materialistically developed life form, which solely represents a life form so deeply addicted to materialism that every consciousness-based evolution over millennia has been detrimental to this degree. On many of our own as well as on other foreign worlds, it is known that the earth human condemns any reasonable consciousness-based evolution and develops himself or herself only in malicious materialism and diverse religious delusions. And so it would be a paradox of the first order if, from all possible choices, a race so manifoldly incompetent in all consciousness-based areas would be chosen for a task of universal significance. But that the earth human, despite this fact, presents this allegation, represents on the one hand an immense arrogance, and on the other hand, it bears witness to his or her autocratic megalomania, which in both these forms cannot easily, or not at all, find an equal anywhere else in this or in another universe. Especially those religions and sects who in their heretical book name the prophet Emmanuel as Jesus Christ and worship him, are the strongest opponents of the real truth. Terms of linguistic designations and numerical values, however, are precisely very important for the calculation of very many things. So also every letter of your language alphabets has a certain numerical value, according to which you can calculate everything. If earth humans paid more attention to these things, they would recognize many dangerous false teachings. In particular, you could calculate the things of your religions and recognize the false teachings from them. Consider the information in the New Testament, where you find the prophecy under the name Revelation, chapter 13, verse 18, which describes the malicious suppression and fighting of the spiritual teachings by the values 666. This number represents the value of a calculation of the number doctrine that you received from Osket back in 1956. With regard to the number 666, we know very well that the earthly Christian religions associate it with a so-called Antichrist. This, however, is a malicious falsification of the facts, for this number does not have the meaning of the destruction of Christianity, but the meaning of the destruction of the truth that was spread by Emmanuel about 2,000 years ago. So the number 66 refers to anti-truth, and to the destruction of truth, as well as to material and purely worldly things. Christianity itself bears this number, arising from the designations God, Jesus, and Christ. These names, according to your values, contain in themselves deadly annihilation and destruction and complete eradication of truth and creative spiritual teaching. Along with other earthly cultic religions, Christianity is at the forefront with the absolute numerical value of annihilation, destruction, and extermination of truth with the number 666. If you now trace the emergence of this religion, you will find that the Christ religion was brought into being in a year of the number 666, namely in the year 189 of your calendar. This year gives a basic number with a tendency to destruction, annihilation, and extinction, namely 18. The triple value results in 666. The birthday of the Christian religion was therefore already marked by destruction, annihilation, and extermination of the truth. If you continue to follow the dates, you will find that in every year, with the triple value 666, the Christian religion planned or carried out a new bloody crime that cost the lives of countless and innocent human beings. In many cases, these crimes look like political machinations. But the truth is that the Christian religion in particular, in collaboration with other religions and with politics, is the causally main culprit. Almost in regular succession, the Christian religion has thus struck every 10 years since its foundation in 189. For the truth-loving human being, the truth must finally break through, and he must realize that Christianity is the bestial beast of destruction, annihilation, and extermination of truth. Christianity embodies the beast with the number 6666, and it is already on the point of destroying the truth and wisdom of the spiritual teachings and the teaching of the creation with such deadly gavolt as has never been the case before. Emmanuel was already aware of the coming of this time of terror, and so he refused to be called God, Jesus, or Christ, which was nevertheless officially done in 189. Emmanuel himself was aware of the doctrine of numbers, and he also knew the future. In sorrow, he well knew that he was unable to change anything, and so his objection to his later designation remained only a conscious attempt on his part to change what was to come. The designations, God, Jesus, and Christ alone, contain dangerous values, for each of these designations embodies death, ruin, and destruction. In particular, however, all three contain the triple value 666, the number of the extinction of truth. This, however, is to be concealed from Earth humans, and falsifying and lying earthly number experts want to see other values in the names of Christ and God. But their teachings are lies and deceit, and they only serve evil and the eradication of truth. It should be known to you that Revelation also speaks of a servant of destruction and annihilation, of a human being who slavishly serves the very might of destruction, annihilation, and the eradication of truth. This human being also carries in his name value the number of the destruction, annihilation, and extinction of truth. His base number is 9 and his triple value is 666. He has been living on earth for many years and, in accordance with Providence, also made his appearance in a year with the destruction number 9 and the triple value 6666. All his names, as well as also the name of his organization, are marked by the destruction number 9 and by the extinction number of truth in the triple value 6666.
I have already been given these details by Ask It once, but can they really be relied upon?
Sure, but it will not be that the human beings bearing the number 666 will be the actual destroyer, annihilator, and exterminator of truth.
That is clear to me. Ta has also said that in a somewhat paraphrased form. The human being bearing the number 666 is, so to speak, only the instigator and the slave of the actual work. The might with the number 66, on the other hand, is embodied in the Christian religion.
Contact Report 039.
I have a question that has already occupied me for a long time, namely regarding a statement of the Christian Bible. There is talk there of an anti-time or something like that. When then should this time come?
This is the prophesied anti-time or the time of the Antichrist, which is falsely laid out in the Christian Bible, in which the earth human will free himself or herself from the religious delusion and turn back to the truth. This time is connected to the cosmic age of Aquarius, and the anti-time has already begun with the passage of the first half into the second half of the transitional period, namely exactly at 11:20 hours GMT on the 3rd of February, 1937.
That would be, therefore, the time of catastrophic confusions, of the churches and other religions' mass murders, and of the political and religious wars, of the degeneration of human beings and otherwise all evils of the last centuries, and the coming time of catastrophes, etc., which were prophesied by the old prophets and also by Emmanuel?
Sure, it's just that they still have not found their completion because the most severe events are yet to come. And to be sure, sectarian murders and mass suicides, as well as religious, murderous riots, neo-Nazi terror, and other terror through right-wing and left-wing radical elements and groups. But in the future, natural disasters will also take the upper hand in a degenerate form, and indeed, not in the least by the fault of Earth humanity. Revolutions and wars will also take the upper hand in menacing measures.
Then it can still become quite cheerful. Will the atomic blockheads still chuck their firecrackers on their heads?
That danger should be averted, at least for now, and according to the probability calculations, that should still be able to be excluded at least up into the third millennium. The values are at 99.8%. Therefore, only an erupting madness of a ruling power or the inattentiveness of human beings could trigger a nuclear war.
Contact Report 045 Prophetien und Voraussagen.
Last time I dealt again with the revelation of John and calculated the data another time, which I already did together with Ascot in 1956. I always come across the same values when I calculate the number 666. It is said that the number 666 is that of a human. What do you think about that?
The number 666 probably applies to an Earth human being, but at the same time also to an extraterrestrial and the work of both. It should be noted, however, that the earthly human being, against his will, has reached the numerical value 666, namely the anti-logos, lies and untruth. This by a name of lies given to him against his will, given by fanatics, liars and deceivers, by religions, charlatans, and might-hungry ones. So the value of the number 666 does not apply to the actual person and the thinking and doing of this man on the earth who has long since passed away, but to the delusional figure which was made of him and which dominates the earth as a religious cult figure. This is the absolute evil and the unreal, the destroying and the destructive, namely the lie and the untruth, the anti-logos.
That is very well set out, but you could call it by its name.
The name has been known in Kabbalistic circles for a long time, including that of the extraterrestrial and his work. But for 2,000 years, the Kabbalists have been trying to falsify the numerical values of the letters because they do not want to acknowledge the truth. The numerical value 666 applies to the German language values of God, Church, Christ, and Jesus. Jesus is the false name for Emmanuel, who already in his lifetime refused this name because he knew the future and knew what would be made of him. Jesus is the value of Antilogos, which, however, the Christian Church falsified into the Antichrist, which is why the true teachings of Emmanuel were falsified beyond recognition. However, these things have been known to Kabbalists for around 2,000 years, which is why they are constantly trying to falsify the figures, as I have already explained.
Well, then the beast with the number 666. Can you explain that to me?
Sure. but only for you alone, because Earth humanity must not yet experience the interpretation. What is generally already known to you refers to the fact that the name of the beast has been learned. This name, WOV, however, is only an abbreviation of a certain versatile diminutive value. The beast is therefore to be regarded only symbolically, because in truth, it concerns the most diverse worldwide organizations with a 2- and 3-part designation, etc. These organizations are embodied, among other things, by politics, the church and its followers, who are individually called Christians. Like God and Jesus, the appellations Christian and church are also identified by the number 666, which together represent the symbolic beast WOV. For you, it is said that the word WOV also means world environment industrialization, world environment pollution, world environment rape, world environment infestation, world environment burning, world environment annihilation, world environment devastation.
I am going crazy. All this already exists partially, but the names do not exactly apply to everything yet.
Of course, some of these organizations have already become effective, but their names will still change, after which other names will emerge from the word WUV. Note, see Contact Reports 127 and 128 for details and further explanations about calculations of the numerical values of letters.
Contact Report 055.
In this context, an expression comes to my mind, which I have heard again and again in the end, namely, Christ consciousness and the like. What value should one add to this name?
Only an extremely negative one, because by naming the word Christ, the value of evil is released, that is, the value of negative degeneration. The same applies to the term God consciousness, as your thoughts release it. You know that these names bear the degeneration value 666, as do the terms Christ principle and God principle.
So you are not supposed to pronounce these terms at all?
That's right, because they always release forces of negative degeneration.
Contact Report 057.
But now I have something again because of the name Christ. Where exactly does this name come from, and what connections do they make?
Christ is the German version of the ancient Greek term Christos. This term is a direct reference to ancient ritual acts of mystical form. This means that the term Christos was used for all cultic and unreal actions as the designation for the cultic act itself when ointments and oils were applied. And when I speak of ointments and oils, then I do this only for the sake of better understanding, because in the old days, when these cultic and murderous acts still took place, no ointments and no oil were used for them, but small children and virgins were slaughtered bestially. Their blood was collected in vessels, kept liquid or thickened, and then the consecrations for the idols were smeared with it, whereby these consecrations were usually again human sacrifices. It was not until later that human slaughter and human sacrifice were slowly expelled and blood was replaced by fragrant ointments and oils, while human sacrifice was replaced by animals, fruit and vegetables, etc., which has unfortunately been preserved to this day. The cults have received no change to the progress of evolutionary form, but have remained in the traditional evil, so an anointing or oiling in the present time still possesses only a ritual worthlessness. Therefore, even today the term Christos or Christ means the absolute negative and evil with the numerical value 666. This was also the reason why Emmanuel resisted the name the Anointed when he knew that it would be attributed to him. It is similar with the naming of Jesus. Therefore, when the earth human speaks of Jesus, of Christ, of Christian or Christ consciousness, etc., Then they act extremely negatively and conjure all negative forces into an Ausartenden form. Ausarten founds to get very badly out of control of the good human nature. They should therefore never speak of a Christ consciousness or in similar word formations if they want to address that which is equalized, because by naming and accepting these word formations, they promote everything negative towards that which is Ausartenden. Earth humanity must therefore be urged that all word formations in connection with the names Jesus or Christ, etc., be erased and renamed to the actual value if they find a true name in the value of that which is equalized. So one may only speak of a creation consciousness and the like, but the knowledge in this regard should also be formed.
Contact Report 150.
There have been still other like-minded people at work in this regard before him, as there are now and will be in his time, and their machinations are also significant in terms of an impending Third World conflagration, but never to the extent of Ronald Reagan's, except later with the Bushes. As you well know, they are of the 7 anti-logos who will stand guilty for the impending world conflagration, and Ronald Reagan is indeed one of them. However, the anti-logos who will possibly still let loose the conflagration will only reach his great might in the coming time, which will enable him to carry out this work of destruction.
Contact Report 213.
What is actually with the Beast 666, which functions in a form of prophecy as an evil dictatorship which should come from Belgium?
With this old customary prophesied beast, which will bear the number of evil and negativity, it concerns in the coming time the so-called European Union, shortly called the EU, which will be a European-wide dictatorship that will be decided on and established with a treaty on the 1st of November, 1993, with a so-called Maastricht Treaty. Also the areas of the military and the judiciary, as well as road transport and agriculture, as well as the industrial economy should ultimately be determined by the powerful figures of the EU, which will have its residence of power in Brussels, Belgium. But the whole thing will be democratic in no way, but will assume dictatorial forms, where the powerful ones negotiate and make decisions among themselves, by what means many still remaining freedoms of the citizens and countries will be limited or will even disappear.
Contact Report 238.
But it is also clear to me that sectarianism is the main factor in the prophecy of the number or beast 666, namely the main factor of the antilogy or even of the Antichrist, as the religious call this truth-killing. In the open word, I already wrote years ago that for this occult and religious sectarianism, the greatest blame must be laid on the religions and the pseudosciences of parapsychology and CSI fanatics, who breed dizziness, incomprehension, lies and deception and charlatanism to a great extent, by paving the way for all swindlers, liars, deceivers, psychopaths, schizophrenics and deludists, by recognizing media of all kinds, spiritual healers, channelers, contactors of all shades, spirit and demon summoners, exorcists, the inspired and other sick or swindlers, liars and deceivers as real and paving the way for them. Unfortunately, there is more than enough evidence to show that through the guilt of parapsychology, which has become a malignant disease of modern times, occult and religious sectarianism has been promoted and will continue to be promoted until everything overflows, and the prophecy is fulfilled that all those who seek and represent the truth will be persecuted and killed, just as it is written in the prophecy of the Talmud Emmanuel.
Unfortunately, this is the truth, and the increased worldwide appearance of the fraudulent contact liars announces the first contractions of the coming, which will result from the equally worldwide and frightening sectarianism which the sectarian houses have fundamentally cultivated in Protestant and Catholic churches.
Contact Report 398.
1940, and it will be that before the third millennium, in 1993, a European political and economic dictatorship will be created, known as Europe Union, which will bear the evil number 666 because it will ultimately put the citizens of all the member states under total control by means of biometric data in identity cards and in the form of small data slices in the head or body in a biometric identification system, which will be monitored and controlled by a central database, which will ultimately make it possible to determine the whereabouts of each person to the nearest meter. First, the USA and later the Europe Union will introduce this modern human enslavement, after which other states will follow, first of all Switzerland. And through this process the personal and civil rights of the humans will be drastically curtailed, which will be fundamentally planned during the construction of the Europe Union, whereby the citizens will ultimately be completely incapacitated and only be governed by the authorities, without them having a say in any state matters and decisions.